There we go. Okay. All right. So I'll go ahead and get us started with a slow opening. And that way, as folks trickle in, they won't have missed any, significant content. Welcome, everyone. Here we go. All right. Slideshow. Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about meaningful work, gifts, and what I'm calling heart posture, sort of another term for our mindset or just the posture of our spirit that we bring to the work we do. So in opening, I have two quotes, and to be honest with you, I might have shared these last time, but I feel like we maybe didn't get to them, ran out of time. But it's been a while. So, thank you guys for hanging in there. Monica and Ariane and I were talking about how this was too long in between sessions. So I just want to acknowledge that has made it harder, and I appreciate you guys hanging in there. So here we go. Two quotes. Here's the first. Ask not what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Now, what I like about this one is that it's inspiring. And that it is in opposition to the idea of the shoulds, like there's things we should do. But it's more about like, wow, you really are gifting the world when you do the things that are in your nature. But I also, now having been in this series with you all, I also have this radar now about, well, not everyone resonates with that, like what makes you come alive or what are you passionate about kind of language. So here's another. The place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. And I wondered if that might resonate more with some, just that idea of like, well, I might not have a super electric passion about something, but I do experience deep gladness, right, in different roles or different kinds of work. So I just wanted to offer those as a nice opening for tonight. Let's see. All right. So to check in, I just wanted to ask you guys to just quickly kind of go around and let us kind of know what you're bringing with you into this time together. So whether that's fatigue from Monica was reminding me it's May-cember for some of you at the end of the school year, and ours isn't until the middle of June, so we're not feeling all of that flurry yet. For me today, we've had, for me, what feels like the longest winter ever. And we finally had like spring, like just decided to show up yesterday and today. So I'm feeling a little refreshed from that. So that's what I'm bringing in tonight. What about, let's see, I'll ask Susan, would you go next?
Yeah, definitely. So we had my stepson's graduation party at our house yesterday.
Wow.
We bought this house about 6 months before COVID hit, and so we had never had a party here, and I enjoy throwing parties. And then his graduation is tomorrow. And so I've been thinking about this day for 15 years, and it's different than if he was mine. And it's very weird. I don't know. I don't have the words to put into place.
Yeah.
For right now.
Yeah. It's probably a combination of thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, it definitely. And you love your stepkids like your own, but it's in a different way. And it will be a huge transition for us.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. And his graduation ceremony was today?
No, it's tomorrow at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, thanks for making time to be with us tonight, even sandwiched between these big events.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I was like, I need to go do this.
Oh, yay. We're glad you're here. Right. You want to pick who goes next, Susan?
Ariane, do you want to go next?
Sure. I can't see you guys. I just see the big screen, but
I'm sorry. Let me stop. Thank you. There you go.
So today I also have a graduate here in a few weeks. So we are busy party planning and adjusting to all the lasts and all that. And it just definitely it's December. June 4th is our last. No, June 3rd is our last day of school, but we're definitely in December for sure.
Yeah.
And then today, Leo, I got a call from school and he had in the middle of play practice, butted heads with someone and his glasses went into his skull. And so he had to go get stitches. So we've been in the urgent care all day, along with apparently lots of people, because lots of people were there today. It was very slow moving. So yeah, it's been an eventful day. So I'm feeling tired.
Yeah. Well, as a facilitator, I feel cheesy saying what I'm about to say, but when I'm a participant, I always appreciate it. So, and that is just like the invitation to take a breath, a deep breath and a slow exhale, and just like fully enter our time together as best you can. Because it's real that like all this stuff is happening and then you're trying to be present here. And it takes some intentional allowing yourself to move through the one into the next, into this being together. So I invite all of you.
Thank you. Yes, that breathing is a good reminder.
Yeah. Mm.
I will pick Cindy.
I had to figure out my unmute for a second. It's been too long since we've been on.
Yeah.
Gosh, well, today I feel like I had the privilege and the honor of helping one of my very best friends move into her home just about 15 minutes away from my house. And I spent my day cleaning her carpets, dusting her baseboards, and just like serving, which was amazing for me because I feel like I have been in this place where I have had to receive help and needing to be served for kind of like a long time. It's been like one thing after the next, and I haven't been able to give and love on those around me in that way. And so that was just really fulfilling, especially for my strengths. I'm sure we'll talk about that. It was lovely to be able to I was like on my hands and knees cleaning her stairs with a carpet cleaner. Like this was not easy. I have blisters on my hands, but I'm so grateful. That's what I did all day.
I love that. That definitely will tie in to the idea that like meaningful work doesn't necessarily mean something you're passionate about. Like you're probably not passionate about cleaning baseboards, but it was very fulfilling, to use your word, to serve. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, who's next?
Monica.
Hello. Well, Eric has been gone since Thursday on a golf trip, and he literally just walked in the door, like while I'm on this call. So I've been solo parenting over like such a chaotic weekend. So I'm just feeling a little bit frazzled at this very moment. I will say, so did you guys watch the lunar eclipse last night?
No.
Was it? Oh, it was so neat. It was so neat. So I don't know if it's like a true full moon phenomenon or what, but I've been talking to several girlfriends and there's just this like tension of just irritability. So I haven't been able to pinpoint exactly why, but I've just been a little bit irritable today. And I've had nothing but like the whole day to myself. So I say that I'm like really empathetic to Macy being in heat. I'm serious. We are like soul sisters right now. And so maybe I'm like feeding off of her. She is like so mopey. But I'm really glad to be here. I'm glad for this booster shot.
Well, I was gonna say also, along with my like, let's take deep breaths, full permission to pause your screen and go pour a glass of wine and come back. Yeah. And then I don't know if Julie wanted to participate or if she was kind of like not able to participate so much, but just listening in. Monica, did you know?
I think she's probably just gonna kind of be listening in. I know she's like, yeah, busy in her kitchen and just wanting to absorb. So
Perfect. Okay. So Julie, feel free to chime in at any time if you want, but we won't expect you to.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
yes,
Okay, I'm trying to figure it out. Yeah, just doing it on my phone. So I'm here. Mostly we'll just be listening. Yeah, like Monica said, doing stuff, cooking and whatnot. But thank you for inviting me, Monica. That means a lot. Just been going through lots of things. So happy to be in the presence of women who are looking for fulfillment and enrichment. So thank you for letting me participate.
We are glad you're here and kudos to you for multitasking.
yes. So glad you're here, Julie.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for giving us a little lay of the land of where you're at tonight. Okay, so I'm going to lightning round our ground rules just to remind our confidentiality, listen with kindness, be curious about what you can learn, not just from the PowerPoint, but from the others. Ask before giving advice if you have something come to mind, and feel free to use the chat. It's not rude. You can message someone that you know, a supporting word, or would you want to talk about this more after, that kind of stuff. Step up if you notice you're being quiet, step back if you notice you're maybe sharing a lot. And just a reminder that we're responsible for our own learning. So I do hope you get as much out of this as you desire. Okay, so since it's been a long time, I'm also going to just kind of refresh our memory on where we've been. In session 1, we talked about our dreams for ourselves, and we used that as a way to examine what we desire for our lives to feel like and how we want to feel in our lives. And out of that emerged a couple of big themes from the group overall, which is that we long to feel peaceful or content, and fulfilled or purposeful. And between the first 2 sessions, you guys reflected on your strengths. You took a strengths survey. And then last session, we talked about purpose, gifts, passions, and between then and now, you observed your gifts in action in your life. Whether you had time to really take notes on that observation log or not, I'm sure that you at least looked at it and it gave you some things to think about. So tonight, I'm going to frame our conversation around the idea of 3 puzzle pieces. I'm going to, in this slide, just give you the overview of what those are and the questions that we'll be coming back to after I give you a deeper dive into each of the 3. So you can let those questions kind of marinate in the background. So meaningful work, using our strengths, something we have talked about, and that was really the nature of the homework, and our heart posture. So I will, like I said, go into each of these in more detail. So the questions after that will be, what is already in place or going well? These are things we can celebrate. These might be observations from that log that I sent you for homework. What, if anything, is missing? What, if anything, is keeping you stuck? And what would you like to do with that information? Basically, with the answers to those first 3 questions, where would you like to take that, or what would you like to do with it? Okay, so meaningful work. Here's the thing with that. You get to define what that is. It's so great. Actually, I want to, there was one little bit I wanted to read from this, The Gifts of Imperfection. I referenced this last time and shared a quote with it from it last time. But just to review, Brene Brown talks about, we all have gifts and talents. When we cultivate those gifts and share them with the world, we create a sense of meaning and purpose in our lives. Squandering our gifts and talents, as it turns out, it's not merely benign or too bad. If we don't use the gifts that we've been given, we pay for it with our emotional and physical well-being. When we don't use our talents to cultivate meaningful work, we struggle. We feel disconnected and weighed down by feelings of emptiness, frustration, resentment, shame, fear, and even grief. So you get to define what that meaningful work is. Our culture doesn't get to tell you if what's meaningful for you is working outside the home or if it's raising children, if it's lawyering, teaching, or painting. It's comes from you. She says, like our gifts and talents, meaning is unique to each one of us. So my question for us right now is, with that in mind, how would you define what is meaningful work for you? I'm going to stop sharing the screen and give you a moment to think. And then I'm going to ask as many of you as want to share how you would begin to articulate what makes work meaningful for you. Okay. All right. I'll give you another moment to think. Okay, someone willing to start us off?
I can.
Great.
So this is definitely one, it's taken a long time to come to, but I think there's two parts: taking care of my family, and that is meaningful. That's something I've always wanted to do. So cooking, cleaning, spending time with them. But I also want to help people. And right now I'm helping people with real estate, finding a home for their family. And to me, right now, that's meaningful because it's really hard right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I find meaning in that. Even though some people look at me like a car salesman, I have to ignore them, tell them to go away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. I love both of the things you said, that taking care of your family can bring a reminder that even the tasks that seem mundane, they're really meaningful because you're taking care of the people you love. And in the same way, the role of real estate, like that is, I mean, my parents are in the middle of trying to buy a house, and it's their stress level is like this. And I have a friend who's a realtor, and he keeps telling me that I should become a realtor. And I was like, there's a million realtors in Bend. And he's like, yeah, but they're all shitty. He's like, there's always the time when with every transaction, pretty much at some point, the buyer calls in tears. It is a big, big, stressful undertaking. And therefore it can, and you're helping people find their home, where life is going to happen. Like, it's incredibly meaningful. But yeah, it's a lot of paperwork and bargaining. And so again, but you're bringing the meaning to it because you're viewing it as helping others. So I love that. Oh, you froze for a sec, but you're back. Okay. Anyone else?
Mine is super similar. Mine is serving others with empathy, compassion, presence, and love.
Wow. I think you just wrote a mission statement. Empathy, compassion. What was the third one?
Presence.
Presence and love.
And love.
Yeah.
I really desire to be 100% present in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
That is so meaningful to me, especially, even as a parent, as a friend, as a wife. Like, I often feel like I'm very distracted by everything else. And I really can't find those moments very often that I am 100% present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's really meaningful when I can be.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love yours as well, because it's not like this is the role that makes the work meaningful. It's like, this is how you're going to show up for people with that servant's heart and that compassionate presence. There's this morning prayer I say a lot of mornings, and part of it is like, asking God to draw me into the compassion of God's presence, like I just love that pairing of compassion and presence. When we get to the part tonight, Cindy, where we're thinking about next steps, or what you kind of want to do with these things, I don't know, and I don't want to impose it on you, but I wonder if it might be thinking a little bit about that dance between the reality that there are a lot of things going on that occupy our attention, and like the desire to be present, and like growing in that skill of being able to be like, yep, right now I'm not going to be present. Right now I have to do 5 things that are all happening. And right now I am going to shift, and I'm going to put the blinders on to the things that are trying to get my attention, and I'm going to be present. And it's not easy, especially with little ones. But I think it's a skill we can grow in, so
Absolutely.
yeah. All right. Anyone else feeling like sharing on this one?
I can keep mine pretty short. And Christy's son's birthday is today. And so I think she's trying to, but I know that I can, Christy, I was just going to speak for you too. So, but I don't need to. We've been,
I'm here, so I'm listening.
Hi.
and I have been throwing around the phrase kingdom work a lot. Or like kind of the idea of like legacy work, or playing the long game and not the short game. So everything, whether it's conversations with neighbors or, cultivating a trusted relationship with my Plexus customers, there's kind of been this shift between like the here and the now and this short-term gratification to true like kingdom work. Like I want my role in their lives to be something that is long lasting and far reaching, and not just this like enigmatic, here I am, and then poof, I'm gone,
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
meaningful work for me right now is really looking like kingdom work.
I love that. Makes me think of a phrase that's sometimes used about like what's the eternal versus temporary, like that long lasting quality of what you bring to your roles. So thank you, everyone. All right, let's move on to keep within our time. Okay, so that was kind of puzzle piece 1, meaningful work. The next one is our strengths, gifts, or talents. This also, so I'm just referring to Brene a lot tonight. I thought this was interesting. Sharing our gifts and talents with the world is one of the most powerful sources of connection with God, which is, isn't that sort of what you all just talked about in different ways? So that's really cool how that's happening. And she says it takes commitment, because it's often not what pays the bills, right? So Cindy, you didn't get paid for vacuuming today, right? Okay. So our next question to discuss is from the observation log of your strengths, gifts, and talents. What did you notice? And even if you didn't have time, like I said, to record things, maybe what were you considering? What were you mulling over? And that could be, these are possibilities, celebrations, like, oh, this is actually great. Gaps, places where you're like, I don't see any of my strengths being used in this role, or I have this strength, but I don't see where it's being used and I want to use it. And if you noticed any opportunities, you don't have to focus on these 3. I'm just offering that as a little bit of guidance if you're like, I'm not sure what I noticed. But all right, so let's see who. Susan started us last time, so maybe someone else wants to start this time. Does anyone need me to leave this up, or be okay if I stop the share so we can see each other? I'll do that.
I can hop in. if you'd
Great.
like, since I went to tip.
Thanks.
I don't have it in front of me, nor did I actually log it. But if you know me well, which Monica is probably the only one in this call, but like I'm always like, I'm a mess, blah, blah, blah. I'm a squirrel and all these things. And so I kind of beat myself up. I don't think I'm necessarily hard on myself, but I beat myself up a lot. At the same time, it's like this weird thing of I do and I don't. That being said, I was really encouraged by my list. I was like,
Good.
I'm utilizing these things, like I really was encouraged by it. And I feel like typically I'd be like, I suck at this and that. But when like the sheet was very clear cut and I was able to put things in it, and not that there's not room for improvement in the things I was doing, but I'm not like totally off a map on what I'm currently doing and what my gifts are. They are there. There's room for growth in it, but it was encouraging. So thank you, Amanda, for that list and that encouragement.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to hear that. And I think that I'll kind of repeat myself again later tonight, but I reflected a lot after Ariane, you and Susan, I think also, talked a little bit about that. Like, I don't know what makes me come alive. I'm not super passionate, I was like, that's so important, and you are using your gifts. And, if you're finding meaningful work and using your gifts, then it's almost like you need to tell the rest of us to pipe down. I'll talk a little bit about like the cultural, messaging we get about, are you living your best life? Are you being impressive? And, that's not helpful. So I'm so pleased to hear that there was encouragement in there.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Ari, real quickly, will you remind us or me of like what strength did you populate in like what was the strength that you were applying?
I wish I had my list too. Like intuitiveness, fairness. Is kindness one? What's
I think so.
kindness?
I mean, yeah.
What were the other two?
Okay, no, that's
Yeah.
good. I was just
Ish.
curious about at least one or two of them.
Yeah.
Just
Great. Thanks for starting us off. Who else? What did you guys notice? Okay, well, we can always move on if this one doesn't get a lot of traction, but I also think maybe Susan and Cindy are just trying to give others a chance to speak, but we're welcome to. Monica, were you about to say something?
I will just briefly say I kind of focused on 3 of my strengths. So my top strength is spirituality, followed by social IQ. And then my 5th strength is the love of learning. So in general, I was really focusing on the love of learning. And Amanda, this will delight you because I say that because in my coaching with Amanda, she offered this language that was really helpful for me. But anyway, to like be curious. So that to me is in sync with the love of learning, is like to be curious about why my kids are at each other's throats, or, to like take a cognizant step back and ask myself like what I can learn in the situation instead of sizing it up instantly and being a bear and leaving them no fruit with them and no fruit with me. So that's just kind of one of the things that I noticed a little bit.
That's really cool how you apply that to parenting. Yeah.
I'll go. I had spirituality and then social intelligence and then self-regulation as my top 3 strengths. And as an Enneagram 1, my self-regulation, I was like, boom, 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 but like I just filled in that all those boxes. I was like, yeah, done, easy. I am applying that one generously in my life. With boundaries, like working out, like it's just really easy for me to feel disciplined. That's just a strong trait I have. But the spirituality one really got me, mostly in the fact that my job, like volunteer work, are two gaps, Amanda, to answer your question. And home and relationships felt high, right? So part of me was like, those buckets are full. At least I feel they're full. And job and volunteer work are not. And if there's a way that I can, you know, it's tough to be in a non-Christian like executive role and like do that. But I have found myself, since I've done this exercise, like just really being in integrity with myself, where there's things that have come and it not be about me and be about God. So I think that was a cool thing that this exercise helped me, because I was actively trying to figure out how can I bring spirituality to my job where I can't physically, it's just not, it would not be okay for me to be like, can I pray over you? You know, like I can't do that. But I tried to figure out a way to pray over a situation. I had 2 people leave me. There's been a sexual assault case. Like there's been some pretty heavy things. And so I was just like, God, I need, like, so I chose to pray in that space for, which I've kind of never invited God into. So it was helpful for me to be able to like find ways that I can fill the gap.
Yeah.
If I can't vocally do it, like I can still pray, right? Like I can pray over them and I can pray over my situation. So, and volunteer work, to speak to Monica's, like, man, we're just working through a lot there. Like there's just a lot that we know we can do, but back to, you know, bandwidth and strengths. Like, I think that's kind of where I feel like I'm in a season of what is my best yes, and where, you know, you have these gifts, but I felt in this exercise, at first I felt like, man, I'm failing. But then as I worked through it, I was like, no, I think that it's just a different season for that gift and strength. So this was cool. I've had it out on my desk for the last week and a half. Thank you for all the extra time. But it was great to kind of unpack it. And I guess overall I felt I left with the fact that I'm not failing, but I can be reminded of how to bring these talents I have into the spaces that they're not.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Such a powerful reminder too, that, you know, if any of you are familiar with Kate Bowler, she's a Christian author and podcaster. She's a professor at the Duke Divinity School. But anyway, I recently read her memoir one part of her, she has a couple books anyway, and it's heart-wrenching because the story quickly is that she is 35 and has a 2-year-old and is diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. So that's the gut-wrenching backdrop. But the biggest takeaway for me from this book that I'm being reminded of, Christy, by what you're saying, is this idea that, because I'm a type 1 also, and she talks about the final chapter in the book is called Unfinished Cathedrals. And she visits this cathedral in Portugal that is really famous. It's a fine example of like incredibly ornate architecture. And I believe she says that 7 different kings reigned during the time of its construction. It was just so ornate, and it was eventually abandoned. Like the project, it was just like, we can't finish this. It's too much. And she just says, like, what an incredible metaphor for our lives. The both and that we are designed with yearning for more, with a desire to use our gifts, with interest in cultivating and creating things. But we're also limited. Like our work is unfinishable. our work on this earth. Our relationships are unfinishable. Our projects are unfinishable. Our email inbox is unfinishable, and that's the reality. And I think sometimes, like for me as a one, I toggle back and forth between these kind of like a false all or nothing thinking of I'm either crushing it, I've got something in every box of that observation log, or I'm failing, which is, you said that's where you started out, I'm failing. And I think that it's a much healthier place to say everything has a season, and the gifts that are shining right now are different than what was in our 20s and what will be when our kids are older. And, so I think that's a really wise place to land. And it's also okay to be human to say like, and I look forward to getting to use some of these other gifts that I'm not right now, or I'm so glad that these buckets are full and there's a little bit of disappointment that these aren't. It's all true. You're just honoring that, So, okay. Anybody else on this question? Okay.
I just remember that when I filled this out, and the last time I actually looked at it was when you sent our email, I think last weekend, maybe early last weekend. But I had 2 of my 5 strengths that had almost nothing in them, like nothing, love and kindness. And I was like, okay, we need to fix that. And I'm like, I'm really nice to like people I come across in life. So I guess I could have written that down, but it was like the deep, meaningful relationships of my husband, my child, my friends. Like I need to make more effort here. It was a good reminder for me to see that, but it was also a reflection of just saying, wow, yeah, I've been really tapped out.
Yeah.
And I needed to have some time for myself and just to kind of work on my level of burnout.
Yeah. So wise. And interesting that like realizing that gift, you're not getting to express that gift fully. And first you said, I need to fix this, but then it wasn't about muscling through and doing more. It was about you're trying to pour from an empty cup and realizing that was actually the route. Yeah. Yeah. You ladies are just blowing my socks off tonight with all this wisdom. This is fabulous. All right, let's get back to what's next so that you can hear from some others too. Okay. So, there's going to be a little bit more on this part because this is something we haven't talked about much compared to the others about strengths. We've talked about a lot. So part 1 of this heart posture section is going to be parts, mindsets that get in our way. And then the second part 2 will be mindsets that pave our way. So self-doubt, maybe everyone has special gifts. So this might be like something you've sort of said to yourself. Maybe everyone has special gifts except for you. Maybe that's why you haven't found them yet. Yes, you do that well, but that's not really a gift. It's not big enough or important enough to be a real talent. Like it doesn't really count. Brene says, self-doubt undermines the process of finding our gifts and sharing them with the world. Moreover, if developing and sharing our gifts is how we honor spirit and connect with God, self-doubt is letting our fear undermine our faith. So self-doubt. Supposed tos or shoulds. This is the battle cry of fitting in, perfectionism, people pleasing, and proving ourselves. You might have been subject to any of these supposed tos. You're supposed to care about making money, not meaning, like you're selfish. If you're brave, you're supposed to quit your job and follow your bliss. Don't worry about money. So like we can get totally opposite messages, but both of them are like, you're supposed to be doing this a certain way and whatever you're doing isn't right. You're supposed to grow up and be a fill in the blank. Everyone's counting on it. So that pressure. You're supposed to hate your work. That's the definition of work. And again, you're selfish if you want more. You're supposed to choose work you love or work that supports the people you love. And another opposite here, you're supposed to do it all, not choose, do it all. Meaningful, important work, raising a family and making it all look easy. Live your best life. So these get in our way. Okay, so now some that pave the way. Faithfulness, a mindset or a heart posture of faithfulness. Faithfully stewarding our gifts, even when they're not flashy or impressive. Staying in our hula hoop. So this is a phrase that was shared with me years ago, and it's this idea of like my hula hoop and your hula hoop. So I get to be responsible for what is mine, what for my gifts, my meaningful work, the roles that are in this season for me, and yours are different. I'm not going to fall victim to supposed tos from you or poor me by comparison, my hula hoop. Offering is another mindset. Offering our work as a service of blessing to others. Our work as spiritual practice. So Brother Lawrence was and this is again, something I may have shared last time. Brother Lawrence was a monk who was a kitchen monk. His entire service was washing pots and pans for years. And it wasn't until after he passed away that all of these writings were discovered, and they are beloved writings in the Christian tradition. And he talks about in his writing how washing pots and pans could be as deeply spiritual as kneeling in prayer. And it was just all about his mindset. And I know that's really lofty, and that doesn't mean we should fault ourselves or flog ourselves when we're annoyed that we're changing a poopy diaper. But it does mean that there are opportunities. This is another book I referenced before, Nurture the Wow, but she talks about finding these little moments that we usually just try to get through and rush past because they're just tedious, and just trying to slow down and, to use Cindy's term, to be present to them. And as an exercise, I picked helping my kids brush their teeth. And it's just an annoying thing to do. But I flipped it in my head, and I just started like actually looking at my child, both of them, my children, as like, you are a miracle. And like my heart just like melted into this place of tenderness of what a gift it is to be tasked with the mundane brushing of teeth. And so again, not to say we have to expect some perfect standard of being able to bring that mindset always, but just to know that we can bring that mindset to anything and everything we do. And lastly, permission or grace. Permission to be yourself and not try to be anyone else. Permission to work hard in your passion. If you are a go-getter and that is what fuels you, that's what's going to keep you fully alive for the people you live with and the people you work with, is to drive hard. And also permission to enjoy quiet contentment free from striving, if it's not your MO, right? Okay, so I'm going to bring this first screen back up. And in just a second, I think what I'll do is, before I make this screen go away so we can see each other, I'm just going to set my timer for a minute to give you a little think time, and then we'll share. And it would be awesome if everyone shared on this. And you don't have to share about all of them, but maybe one or two of these questions that is really speaking to your heart. So I don't think this needs any explanation, but any questions before I start my timer? Okay, then think away. I'll call you back in a minute. All right, who can start us off? And again, you can pick any question or two that speaks to you.
I'll go. So can you put the puzzle piece back up if
Of
that's
course.
okay?
Yeah. There you go.
I think this is just such a good like tie-in from what I took away out of this exercise was my top gift and strength and talent being spirituality. Right. I look at that meaningful work, and I know Monica mentioned kingdom work, soul work. I also say like that's missing. So how can I incorporate that piece, because it is my strength. And I think when I do that, that heart posture is just a natural reaction to the soul work, because I used to be part-time working and able to work obviously with Monica, with these women. And man, if I could now, having done that, look back and reflect and say, that was it all. That was the perfect ecosystem for me, and what fed me and what refueled me. So I think for me, that's what's missing. I kind of focused on that one. But kind of back to earlier, like, when is the season for that? Now that I've highlighted that, like, I'm not in a season to take that on. So then comes that next question of how do I get to, how do I get there? Maybe that's for you, Amanda. I know it's missing, but I also know I don't think I can get there in my current season. So what do you do when you know what's missing, but you also know your bandwidth, and that's kind of seriously what I've been struggling with the last, what it brought it to light with this. But truthfully, it's been something that's been a thorn in my side.
Yeah. I think that's a great question. And I saw Cindy nodding in solidarity, I think. Yeah. And I don't have like a 2-second answer, but I think that final question on this screen of what would you like to do with that information? Because it could be that for now, you just want to accept it. I don't know. And it could be that you want to pray for a door to open that makes this feasible. It could be, like you talked about earlier, the idea that you can't take on anything more, but you might be able to bring a different part of yourself, a different lens to the responsibilities you're already a part of. So I think there's a lot of different ways people can go with that question. And it might be too that if spirituality is your strongest gift, you might not be in a season where you're getting to bless others with it. You might not be in a position of leadership or, hosting a Bible study, but you might be able to find ways that you can still exercise it by participating in something that someone else is responsible for. And it's not adding to your plate and to your responsibilities, but it's fueling you. You're getting to express that part of who you are.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for starting us off, Christy.
I'm late, but I'm here.
It's perfect.
Literally, there are people in my downstairs that are
Oh my
still
gosh.
here.
You're fantastic.
I'm like, I gotta go. This is my out. I'm hosting. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. We don't have a lot of time left, ladies, and I'm hoping we can hear from several of you. So just jump on in.
I'll go real fast. I'm learning to like my strengths more. That's where I need to figure out what that actually looks like judgment, weigh information thoroughly, clearly in real estate, examining that for clients and stuff, that's super obvious, but in other ways of my life, where is that obvious? Or my number 3 is forgiveness. Okay, well, that's great. But what does that? How do I put that into practice in real life?
Okay. Yeah. So would you say, is that kind of your next step, is exploring that question further?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
actual forgiveness is a big one,
Mhm.
but okay, so what little things like, okay, maybe the person who cut me off, I don't tell them that they're an idiot. I practice forgiveness then. I don't.
Mhm.
Yeah, little things like what that really looks like for my strengths.
Yeah. That I'm not sure how it feels to you, but to me, I just see like a playground there of possibilities. Like, what could that be? You know, how could you use forgiveness in your different roles? You know, and part of it might be, like you said, your active forgiveness yourself. It can also, I imagine, be modeling a posture of grace.
Oh,
And others pick up on that, you know. I mean, oh, Monica says maybe practicing forgiving yourself. That's important.
figuring out what that looks like for myself. I can forgive other people super easy, but maybe that's my next piece, is what that looks like in real life. And I need to find a hobby, I realized.
Now that, does this mean you'll be an empty nester?
No, my
Oh, okay.
10-year-old, she's still at home.
Okay. Okay. You don't need a hobby unless you want one. That chart, I'll just say it one more time, was not meant to be like a bingo blackout.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's cool. I once had someone share with me the question, like, where can you invite God to journey with you more closely in that, whatever that is? So like, how can you invite God to journey with you in this like exploration of, how do I use the gift of forgiveness? You know? Yeah, I'm curious. I hope that you'll consider having some conversations with people just to like bat that around. Yeah, that'd be cool. You guys are making me wish we had 2 more hours. Okay, someone else. Ariane, you haven't shared in a while. Are you half asleep? You're like fully laying down at this point.
I'm just thinking, I hope it doesn't look bad that I like literally don't want to sit up right now. I'm just like laying on my bed. I'm engaged though. I'm here.
You're good. It's just, I'm just chuckling.
So for the record, to Monica, I thought of my other 2. It was forgiveness and spirituality. So those were the top 5. And I think what keeps me stuck again is that self-doubt piece on things, you know, being an Enneagram 9 as well, we tend to not trust ourselves. And so, but I just feel like I'm in a really good space of having the opportunity to improve in all these things. Like I said, I'm in alignment and I'm in the right spaces. It's just a matter of being intentional in just being intentional in all of them and aware, you know. Like I said, this chart was neat because I was like, oh, look at me. Look, I'm doing it. And so even having that structure and space is helpful. And then to revisit it, I guess that would be my next step and direction, is to not be like, okay, we're done and never think about this again. But I think it's a good chart to keep and keep revisiting and seeing, you know, staying there and making sure I'm going forward in all of those spaces versus forgetting or unintentionally
Mhm.
slipping out of
Mhm.
things as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I just want to affirm you because the word alignment that you've used twice tonight is, I think, so powerful. Like I personally feel like when we can align how we're designed, whether we're talking about introvert, extrovert, Enneagram type, strengths, whatever we're talking about, align how we've been designed with the way we spend our time, essentially, our habits, our roles, our work. The more closely those can be aligned, the more we thrive. And so when you discover that you're in alignment, I think that's beautiful and worthy of celebration. And then I also want to encourage you. Are you familiar with Hal Elrod and the Miracle Morning? It's so cheesy, but
I bought the book years ago.
okay.
I've really
So
looked at it, but
fine, but he has these, this acronym for all the things you could do in the morning. The one I want to encourage you to try is very cheesy. Are you ready?
yes, bring it.
But it's affirmation. And I think as a 9 who struggles with self-doubt, like what has happened over the course of your life without your meaning to is like you've built all these neural pathways of doubting yourself. And then any situation that has the possibility of self-doubt, you can go there very quickly because those neural pathways have been traveled so much that they're like superhighways. Whereas like practicing affirmation, as cheesy as it sounds, you're doing the work of building new neural pathways, and you have to practice them. You have to, in order for them to become stronger so that you can go there in that moment versus going to self-doubt. So I know you're like, oh, I'm really uncomfortable, but
no, you are so right. And I've always known that. And yes, I've always shied away from it and never stuck fully with it enough to change my neural pathways. Like I tend to veer. So thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
I need to do that. Indeed.
Maybe I'll just start texting you obnoxious affirmations until you.
You should. I would love
it. Okay. Well, it is 7. Well, for me, it's the end of our hour. Let's see. I have one closing question for us that we can do real quickly, or if either Cindy or Monica, if you were wanting to jump in, we can skip that final question and give you a chance. It's up to you. Okay. Taking that as go ahead and move on, Amanda. All right. So we're at the end of our 3 sessions. So I want you to choose one of these questions, write down your answer, share it with us. What would you like to celebrate or honor about your work over these last few months? Where were you before this series and where are you now? What are you taking away, or what was most valuable? It's kind of 2 ways of phrasing the same thing. Or what have you discovered about yourself? Take a moment. Has everyone picked a question? Just give me a little thumbs up or something so I can see if I need to leave it up. Okay. Thank you. All right. For sake of time, Monica, will you start us off?
Yes, and this will be an unplanned kind of but relevant way to start wrapping up our time together in these 3 sessions. But a takeaway for me is just the continued value of coaching. So we can come to this in a few minutes. Maybe I can help close this out, but I just want to thank you, Amanda, for what you have poured into this, because, well, I'm like a nerd who loves this type of stuff. Like I love assignments and deep thinking and journaling, and like I love that. But we really need, in my opinion, coaching.
Mm.
Like, and I've just been privileged to be on the receiving end of your coaching, but that's kind of one of my takeaways is that these can't be just like one-off little powwows. Like there needs to be ongoing development, and someone who can draw those beautiful things out of us that we wouldn't even know existed if it weren't for the time that what you curated to get to that. So that's my little,
Aw.
she did not pay me
Right.
to,
Spokesperson. Oh, thank you. I love that. I find coaching really valuable on both ends. So, all right. How about Cindy?
Sure. I think it was really helpful for me to identify what my strengths were in this process and to identify those gaps. I came into this coaching series having just had a miscarriage, like feeling like my cup was negative imbalance, like nothing filled me up. And it has taken months of like trying to do self-care, and I'm just now like feeling like there's like some rewards to that. But I also have to recognize that I'm like an Enneagram type 2, so I'm a caregiver. And if I can't care for people, I am very unfulfilled.
Yeah.
And so it was this fine balance of saying like, where is my bandwidth today? And how much care can I give out? But it also was like in caring and giving of myself and being generous, I've also been able to be more fulfilled if I make that effort. So that has been really meaningful for me to just kind of identify the strengths, seeing where I can give and when. And I'm just now starting to kind of feel a little bit more normal, where things are like fulfilling again.
I'm so glad for you coming through that. Yeah. And really insightful for you to ask that question, even on a daily basis, right? Of what can I give? What do I need to receive? Yeah. Thank you. Let's see, Susan.
What's been most valuable is the strengths, because this was the third time I had taken this exact strengths test, and I take personality tests, and this one always came back the same. And so digging in like, okay, this is who you are, and then hearing from everyone else that we are all uniquely, we have top 5 and that makes us unique. And that I think has helped me to hear other people that that's how God created us. So therefore that means I have been created unique also, and that these have been given to me, and that I need to figure out how to use them. Otherwise, like that quote, it causes distress. So I think that has been most valuable for me. Clearly 3 times a charm, because but that is my biggest takeaway of this whole thing.
Yeah. Great. Well, I'm glad that it was still helpful, even though it might have felt repetitive for you. I'm glad that there was value in it for your benefit. That's good.
Yeah, everything else was new. It was just that one little piece, but clearly God is like, hello. I'm going to sandwich everything else in here, but this is what you need to hear.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it takes us a while, doesn't it? Or like the Israelites, we keep forgetting. That's okay. How about Ariane and then Christy, and then we'll wrap up. And if anybody's like, oh my gosh, I really have to go, we understand. And Julie, if you wanted to chime in, we know that you're still there, so you're welcome to. Ariane.
First of all, Susan, you said that so distinctly and very well. I was like, oh, that's so perfect, So I agree with so much of what you said as well. So piggyback on that. It's funny because I had never taken that particular strengths test. I've
Mhm.
taken lots of others, but that one was new, and I did appreciate the different language. Like nothing was surprising to me of what it said about me, but it was in different wording and just how they explained it. I was like, oh yeah, that fits in well with all the other ones, but just in a slightly different way that was
Mhm.
fresh to me.
Mhm.
It was helpful. And then yeah, just not that this is new, but just another reminder. And it comes back to the whole coaching too of just intentionality. Like we
Yeah.
have these strengths, we have these gifts, and we need to pay attention to them, and develop them, pray through them, um, love them because God wired us that way,
Yeah.
so like
Mhm.
embrace them in that way. But yeah, to not, my biggest takeaway is okay, remember Arian and keep using and developing and being thankful for them.
Mhm. I love that. It reminds me of that unfinished cathedral. Like we're never finished, but it's always beautiful and it's always co-creating with God.
Yeah, I love that
Mhm.
title for the chapter and just that
Mhm.
example.
Christy.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off the piggyback because
Mm.
that's Ariane was like, you said what I was going to say. So
Mhm.
I'll be short. I think the Strengths Finder was first time I've ever taken
Mhm.
this one. Taken many things, and yep, just remembering why God has made me the way He's made me. And sorry, that was my mom beeping in. And to just make sure that more importantly, this talent that God has given me, that I'm using it. That's probably my biggest takeaway is this is my true talent, that I'm not self-serving it, that I'm giving it. So.
Yes. Yeah, you're blessing the world by using the talents you've been given, for sure. Okay, well, I'm sorry we always go a little bit over. There's just so good. I'll just pass the baton to Monica, but first I just want to say, and I don't mean this as like a awkward plug, but I love I love this work. It's been so fulfilling for me to meet with all of you, as well as like I do meet with clients individually, and I like to describe it as that I help people make proactive change in the areas of their life where they're wanting more, they're wanting change, they're wanting growth, and also help people navigate when life brings change to them that they weren't seeking out, whether that is a move, whether it's something, a change in job, it could be any kind of thing. Not that this applies to any of you, but I've also worked with several retirees who are trying to figure out, how do I use what's my purpose now? And how do I manage my time? And anyway, so if that's ever something that you would find helpful, please reach out. All right, passing it to you, Moni.
Well, I think that I know I can speak on behalf of all of us and just say that we're so thankful for what you have brought to the table. And also just like the task, the huge task of trying to herd cats, which I've never liked that, but anyway, to manage all of our schedules and do such individualized work in a group setting, like she's trying to tap into what makes each of us tick individually. And I think that you were so successful in doing that. And then, covering such a wide expanse of time. So this far exceeded my vision of what I had hoped that it would be. And I can offer an awkward plug because no, but really Amanda has this really beautiful ability to unlock things that are or to create movement in areas of your life where you might otherwise feel stuck. And I can speak to that firsthand. So I will text each of you guys Amanda's address if you want to like send a little thank you card or a text message or something, just so we can affirm her and the beautiful work that she has given to us. And I guess that's a wrap.
I guess so. Thank you all for sharing of yourselves. It was just an honor to journey with you, even for this short time of 3 sessions, but I've loved it. So I've been praying for you in between sessions. And so maybe I'll just close us in prayer briefly and let you all go on with your evening. Yahweh, you are our everything. You're our source. You're in our breath. And we thank you. We thank you for designing us with unique gifts and talents, with unique ways that we engage in meaningful work. And we thank you for the invitation to accept the reality that we're doing a beautiful work and it will never be finished until you bring it to completion. So I just pray that you would help us to, as Ariane said, to love our gifts, to develop those gifts, to be intentional in sharing and expressing those gifts, and to have grace with ourselves when we forget, to have grace with ourselves when we don't have bandwidth, and to receive from your outpouring spirit when we need to be refreshed so that we can return to the servant life of caring for others with our gifts. I just pray a blessing over each woman here and her family and the work she's doing in the world. Thank you for this time for our paths to cross. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so
All right.
much,
Thank you.
Amanda.
Of course. Good night, ladies.
Good
Thank
night. Thank you.